Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney's speech at Davos represents a watershed moment in global diplomacy, a candid acknowledgement of systematic hypocrisy that could reshape how nations navigate an increasingly unstable and divided world. Carney's address has crystallized what much of the world has been thinking in whispers. The Western-led international order, built on promise of shared rules and equality, has become a transactional instrument wielded by the strong to serve themselves. Yet Carney's most sophisticated move was to call out Donald Trump as the architect of a new global rupture without ever mentioning his name. Well, this demonstrates a masterclass in diplomatic communication, achieving maximum impact while maintaining strategic restraint.
Let me be direct. We are in the midst of a rupture, not a transition. Over the past 2 decades, a series of crises in finance, health, energy, and geopolitics have laid bare the risks of extreme global integration. But more recently, great powers have begun using economic integration as weapons. Tariffs as leverage, financial infrastructure as coercion, supply chains as vulnerabilities to be exploited.
Well, this indictment extends deeper. Trump's threat to annex Canada, absorb Greenland, punish NATO allies, and weaponize tariffs represents not merely a change in American foreign policy, but a fundamental rupture in the post-Cold War architecture. By framing Trump's action as a rupture rather than a transaction, Carney signaled that this represents not a cyclical shift but a structural break, one requiring entirely new framework over understanding global order. Well, what makes Carney's speech even more consequential is its implication for middle powers. For countries long constrained by the security guarantees and economic benefits of the American orbit, including Canada, his words signal permission for recalibrate relationships and pressure independent strategies.
Argue that middle powers must act together because if we're not at the table, we're on the menu. But I'd also say that great powers can afford for now to go it alone. They have the market size, the military capacity, and the leverage to dictate terms. Middle powers do not. But when we only negotiate bilaterally with a hegemon, we negotiate from weakness. We accept what's offered. We compete with each other to be the most accommodating. This is not sovereignty. It's the performance of sovereignty while accepting subordination.
Now, Canada's pivot is particularly significant because it challenges the fundamental assumption that American hegemony benefits its closest allies indefinitely. By publicly questioning that assumption, Carney has essentially opened a path for other nations to do the same, to ask whether accommodation of American interests serve their own strategic interest or merely delays necessary adjustments. Carney has also essentially argued is that without authentic reforms, the alternatives like regional blocs, strategic decoupling, and middle power coalitions becomes of no use. Now, to conclude, January 2026 as Davos will be remembered as the moment when a Western leader himself finally named the Empress nakedness. And when your most reliable ally delivers that verdict, the implication reverberates far beyond the Swiss mountains.